Hello and welcome everyone to our live show. Today we'll be talking about the Cambridge curriculum, and I'm joined by a few guests today who, can you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is RATANAK. I am from grade 6.
Hello everyone, my name is WANN and I'm from grade 11.
I'm teacher Tim and I'm the grades 3 through 6 teacher here.
And my name is teacher Louis and I'm the ICT computing teacher. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking today about our Cambridge curriculum, which all of our students study. And I just wanted to get the ball rolling with some perspectives from all of you about maybe some of the benefits or just initial thoughts about the curriculum. So we'll start with you, Ratana.
Cambridge?
Yes, the Cambridge curriculum.
It can help you with English. Like, for my English, it's pretty good. But for everyone else's, it's also really good. I'm not saying that it's bad for other languages, but it could be better. Like, for the English, they're already performing really good. But for other languages, they should really explain more information about it.
Okay, so you're saying this sort of in comparison to other curriculums and studies. Right, okay. Yeah, that's very good to hear. And so what are your thoughts as well?
I mean, compared to other curriculums, I think Cambridge is quite intensive. It can be quite intensive, but they do offer more details into each of the lessons. And I find it quite interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And what about you, teacher Tim?
Yeah, well, as they both said, it's quite intensive, but that's also really beneficial to them because they're learning more than other students who study a different curriculum. Because of the cross-curricular links within the Cambridge curriculum, they're going to be studying about a lot more different topics than other schools would allow. So while they're studying English, they're also studying mathematics, science, history, things like that. So I think it's really beneficial in that sense.
Sure, yeah. So we picked up on a few key words there. We talked about it being intensive, maybe comprehensive. So you're not just honing in on just pure book learning details, but maybe taking it as a holistic approach and sort of interweaving, as you say, those different curriculums and different activities in that learning. I think that's really positive. I wanted to explain a bit about the key attributes that Cambridge learners are supposed to have, or what the curriculum encourages. So those key attributes would be being confident, being responsible, being reflective, being innovative, and being engaged. So out of those 5 aspects, are there any that you feel that you've managed to represent or use in your learning? And we'll start with you.
I use mostly confident. To be confident, if you just think what other thinks about you, you will never be confident in yourself. So just think in yourself, think about yourself. So just respect you. Because it's their own way of judging you. It's not your way of judging you.
Sure, yeah. So you're sort of being confident in your own ability and your own skill, rather than trying to listen for either critique or appraisal from others. You're sort of basing your own value in your study on what you believe you've achieved and what you've done. Would you say, where in your studies do you find that you have to use this aspect the most?
Mostly in projects and presentation, because you have to stand in front of everyone and hope they won't judge you, but just don't care about how they judge you.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's really important. So when you're doing, is this group work as well?
Yeah, group work.
Right, so both group work and the presentations, you're sort of saying, I'm confident in what I've managed to achieve, and does that sort of stop you from being distracted by other people?
No, that doesn't stop me.
It doesn't stop you from being distracted. Okay, so it's more just about how good you feel about the work you've done. Right, yeah. I think that's a very important aspect to focus on as well, especially at your age. You don't want to, be shying away from any activity. You want to engage with what you're studying. Yeah. And so what about you, Wani? Any aspects that you feel that you utilize the most?
I do feel that I'm quite innovative. Well, when I solve problems like math, coding, and all that, I don't follow the rules. I try to find ways that I can understand and grasp the concept more by, well, explaining it to myself aggressively, like I'm dumb.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you do that?
I definitely do that as well. I've said it before, my main way of learning is through teaching. You need to make sure that you're able to simplify the topic down and make sure that anyone can understand at any level. That shows real mastery of knowledge. And I think similarly, if you're being innovative in creating your own way of studying, you've transformed what could be a generic learning method into something that's tailored to your own interests and your own abilities, which is going to take you far further. Even though it might feel like extra work or a bit stressful, that will benefit you through your entire life, I think. And so lastly, Teacher Tim, any of those aspects that you find that you inhabit the most as a teacher?
Yeah, for me, the two aspects that I think are the most important are being responsible and being engaged. That is not only important for the teacher, but also for the students as well. So as a teacher, it's my responsibility to provide engaging lessons and to provide the students with a path to understand what they're studying. So I have to take responsibility to make my lessons on time and to spend a lot of time and put in a lot of effort to my lessons so that they're engaged. And I also need to be engaged myself. If I'm not interested in what I'm teaching, then the students aren't going to be interested. But the students, however, they also need to be responsible and take the time to do things like self-studying and asking questions when they don't understand something. It's quite important because sometimes the students will think that it's the teacher's responsibility to teach them or to do everything for them. But actually, the students themselves, they also have to take responsibility. And if they're not engaged, they're not going to be as responsible as if they are engaged. So they have to take control of their own learning. So for me, being responsible and being engaged is quite important.
Sure, yeah. I see it sounds to me like it's a bit of a two-way street in terms of you as a teacher need to be engaged, and that encourages the students to be engaged as well. And if you're responsible, you know, that's a balance. They need to be responsible for themselves. You can't personally be responsible for every single student's learning, only their opportunities to learn. It's up to them to claim the opportunity themselves as a responsible student. I'm finding myself personally being reflective because I'm quite new as a teacher. I'm trying to look at my past successes and failures on maybe more of a micro scale than you would if you've been doing it for longer. So for example, lesson by lesson, I might say, I implemented a new strategy. How did that work in this lesson? Do I need to tailor it for the next lesson and so on? So I think, yeah, that as part of the curriculum, being reflective is very important to me. So now I wanted to talk a bit about the differences from younger to old learners and to teachers about the curriculum. We've already talked about it being quite intensive and the structure of the learning. And how do you feel you've managed with that so far in your studies, Ratana?
For studying, you just have to try your best. Like, just try your best and hope you get a good result. If you don't try at all, you would probably get like 9 or 0.
Sure.
So if you don't study, if you just play video games all day and just don't touch a book at all, you will never be successful. Like, you can't succeed in life.
Sure, so that's something that the curriculums maybe taught you then, is to be dedicated to your studies, trying hard every day, not necessarily trying to be the best, but your best maybe. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's a very positive outlook that's going to carry you through all of your studies, I think, as well. And on that note, so how have you found the curriculum compared to maybe other curriculums you studied in the past, and how do you feel that it's preparing you for your future?
Well, for this curriculum, Cambridge curriculum, I'm currently doing my IGCSE. So I've seen that if you have an IGCSE certificate, you can have more opportunity, a broader, choice in university. For example, you can go abroad to Australia, USA. And also before going to IGCSE, I have to think about what I want to do in life. Because then after that, then I can choose my, subjects.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as you said, because it's sort of internationally recognized as a curriculum and the sort of exams and the achievements you receive, that allows you to open more doors in your future careers and pathways. So, and so on that topic, is there anything, Teacher Chen, that you find most beneficial from the curriculum, or even from the point of view of teaching it to students or as a teacher yourself?
As I had mentioned before, for me, the most beneficial part of the curriculum, as far as English goes, is the cross-curricular links. So the students have a chance to study about maybe new technology, or they have a chance to study about world history or natural disasters. And through those topics, they're going to be studying English. They're going to be learning about how to write new verb tenses, or maybe learning about giving presentations through those topics. So I think the cross-curricular links are quite beneficial to the students, because it ensures that they're not only learning English, they're actually learning about practical topics as well.
So as you say, you're sort of grounding the strict, maybe the grammar rules that you're trying to teach, but you're doing it through the medium of a broader perspective.
Yes, that's right.
Right, yes. And I think, as we mentioned before, that's something that might help you in your future life, your own country, in your sort of Khmer lessons. But with the Cambridge curriculum, you're studying the whole world over. So in that sense, is there any particular topic or theme that you've enjoyed the most as a student, or anything that you're particularly associated with? This is for anyone to answer.
Yeah, I do. Like Teacher Chen said, natural disasters. We learned about tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that appealed to you as a learner?
Yes.
Yeah, and was there any particular, as I said, sort of grammar rule, any particular topic that you were learning through talking about those tsunamis and so on?
We did a project about it.
You did a project on it? And was that a presentation as well?
Kinda.
Yeah. And so that's maybe where you were being confident and
Yeah.
showing off those skills that you had. That's really interesting.
RATANAK, do you remember what you talked about during the presentation? Tsunamis, but what was the point? Do you remember that?
Get to high ground and yeah.
What was the grammar point? Do you remember the grammar point?
I have no idea.
Okay, we had learned about imperatives, and they had to give public service announcement to tell people how to protect themselves from a natural disaster of their
So
choice.
like you say, going to high ground, right?
Yeah.
So you owe some instructions, right? Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. And so what about you, Wonnie? Anything that you've enjoyed lately about the curriculum? Any topic or theme?
The topics are interesting, but if I have to choose one, then it would be that one topic. It was like different cultures around the world. So we had to do a presentation about it, and we were told to choose a country, some country that we don't know, and study to make a PowerPoint presentation about it. And we get to learn like their language, how do they greet, how do they say thank you, and their customs, traditions, and how they pay respect. And it was very interesting.
Yeah. Do you remember the country that you did?
Actually, I've learned, my friends did their own country as well, so I mixed up.
Oh, so you've done a whole group.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of countries. Oh, that's good. So not only are you learning for yourself, but you're teaching it to your class as well, and they're teaching
Yes.
you as well.
So I forgot what country I did.
Which one specifically was yours? Yeah, that's really interesting. I do very much appreciate that, because I've enjoyed doing it from the other side. I've enjoyed coming here, learning the local culture and so on. And I think as I studied the Cambridge curriculum when I was younger, I remember we did a whole topic on St. Lucia, which is a small island nation. And then we made, I think that was for half the year we did that. But then, as we said, we incorporated studying the maths, studying history, geography, but centralized around one particular location and adapting it to to each of those individual lessons. And like I say, I would have no idea about many places in the world if the curriculum hadn't encouraged that kind of learning. So I think that's really positive. That's a really beneficial aspect. I wanted to ask as well, obviously, as students, you might have difficulties in certain areas of study or certain styles of study. So do you have any tips or tricks that you've learned, or do you have any questions or any advice you'd like to ask from us?
I got some tips.
Okay.
So if you're like really stressed out, like you're still studying and you're really stressed out, just go and relax, like go with the flow. Just relax, and then when you feel calmer, you can go back to your studies and remember more.
Sure. So you're not trying to just push
Overwhelm
through.
yourself,
Yeah. So when you feel overwhelmed, you recognize that and you take the time out to recover and relax as well. I think that's very important. I may be too much on the other side of that. I value being too relaxed maybe sometimes, and I need to push myself maybe a bit more. So it's interesting to hear it from the other side, where you're maybe recognizing pushing yourself isn't going to help you right now. Maybe taking a breather and then coming back with a new perspective. Yeah, that's very wise advice. And what about you, Moni? Any questions or any comments you'd like to offer us?
So I'm currently doing the IGCSE. I would like to ask for tips and advice because you also did IGCSE. So is there any tips or advice or any strategies to help overcome this?
For me, it was, I really don't enjoy exams. I find it very stressful trying to compact a whole term of learning into a couple hours performance. And for me, I sort of did what I'd call exposure therapy. I looked at mock exams and I did those over and over and over until you start to learn the routine of how to find out what they're asking you in the question and find out how you yourself are going to interpret it and put it onto paper. And once you've done that enough times, you notice the patterns. Because, as we said, the curriculum follows a very strict routine in its teaching and learning. I think once I knew what to expect in the exam, I was less afraid of going in there. Maybe I had all the knowledge in my head, I just didn't know how to get it on paper. So I practiced putting it on paper, and that allowed me to feel much more relaxed come exam time. Do you have anything to add on that as well, Peter?
Yeah, I think to keep yourselves from feeling overwhelmed, it's really important to keep the end in mind. Remember, you're studying for to meet your future goals, whether it be studying abroad, whether it be getting the great job that you want. You're studying for your future goals, so it's really important to keep that in mind and not focus too much on trying to get the best score on the exam to please your parents or to just show off to your friends that you're so clever. It's important to keep everything in mind that we're studying for the future. We're not studying just for the present. We're doing it for a better future. So I think with that mindset, you can study and feel less overwhelmed.
I think that's definitely, it's a responsibility of both teachers and students to make sure that the work being given, the work being set, is put into context, put into perspective. For example, we don't want homework just so that you're doing something at home and your parents know that you're studying. We're doing it so that you can maybe revise or prepare for the next lesson and so on. And also, as we said, teach yourself to study as well. I've always had this concept in my head that it's not the task itself, it's not the learning itself that's difficult, it's the discipline. It's the habits that you're building. That's the hardest part in anything in life. You know, you can stretch once, but unless you do it every day, you haven't actually made that consistent progress. So it's more about doing it consistently and diligently each time. And of course, as we say, doing your best for your own personal achievements, for your own goals, rather than external factors, because you're not going to be able to control those, but you can control how you feel. Makes a lot of sense. So any other questions you have maybe for your fellow learners? Maybe you have some ideas about what's going on later in IGCSE, or maybe you have some questions for your future careers and so on?
Well, given how this curriculum is quite intensive, I've said that a lot of times, but do teachers get burnout? Like, do you get frustrated, stressed over tons of workload and stuff like that?
Yes, I've been frustrated before because of the curriculum, especially when we have exams coming up and there's a lot to prepare or we have a lot to grade. But I just think about my students. I keep them in mind while I'm working so that I remember that this is the reason why I'm teaching. That keeps me motivated enough to get the work done and do a good job while I'm at it.
Yeah, I think it's similar for me. I wouldn't say that I have too much trouble with burnout just yet. I'm still finding it all very new and exciting, and I'm very much enjoying that. But I do go through periods of innovation, and then maybe I start to rest on my laurels a bit. I find success, and then I ride that for a while, and then I maybe get into a bit of a rut and have to rethink my strategies again and go back again. And I think that sort of goes back to what I talked about before. It's not just about having one great idea. It's about trying to keep having good ideas. You know, you can't just expect one method to work every single time. Yeah, you have to adapt as you go on. I mean, this will happen throughout your entire life. You know, right now you're in school for 12 years in the same school a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then once you leave, you're going to go into a completely different world and you're going to have to rethink everything again. And I think the best part is to stay confident in your abilities, in what you've learned throughout your life. But I think you've all got a great start, especially with the Cambridge curriculum. As you said, you're already thinking about studying hard every day. And no matter what you're studying, that will stay beneficial to you. Absolutely. So, any last comments? Any last questions?
For RATANAK, do you self-study? Do you study every single day?
Yes.
Do you self-study?
Yes.
How many hours?
3.
3? Isn't it a bit too long? Because 2 hours, I'm dead. How do you manage that? 3 hours a day?
As the method that I just told you guys, I relax and then study. Relax and then study.
Oh, do you not get distracted?
Not really.
Oh, that's good.
I think maybe the relaxing helps you focus. As you say, not getting distracted. You might be sort of allowing yourself to be distracted for certain times and then focusing back. It's kind of like not struggling. If you had a dog on a leash, you're not trying to yank it back all the time. You might let it explore for a bit and then you can guide it back again instead of trying to fight yourself at those moments. I think recognizing when you're stressed, recognizing when you need downtime is a key skill, and that's something great that you've learned that early.
Yeah, I tried the Pomodoro method. Do you know that?
Yes.
And during the 5 minutes, I would get really distracted.
Yes.
It's not my method. I can't do that.
Do you use a timer for it?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what I found helped me cutting it out. But for some people, it's not long enough. So you can do double Pomodoro, where you just double the time that you're resting and working each time. If you find 5 minutes is not enough of a brain break, then maybe try it again.
An hour?
An hour, yeah. Well, that's it. So I used to do this as well. I never wanted to come home and immediately launch into working as well. I'd maybe have a snack, have a break, watch something, half an hour up to an hour. But cutting off, doing the hard work, not leaving it to the last minute. And that works on a larger scale as well. With your exams each term, I don't want to not do anything for the first month of the term and then suddenly ramp it up rapidly towards the end. But maybe the first week, oh no, I'm just getting used to things, I'm finding my footing, and then I can start again. So it's up to you, it's just how you find it. What works best for you.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to stay disciplined and avoid negative peer pressure and keep on the right track. Keep your goals in mind. Keep the end in mind.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And with the end in mind, I think we may have come to our time here, unless anyone has any other comments.
I think that's all.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all.
Yeah, I think that's all for me too.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank both our viewers at home for joining us today for our live show, and for each of our guests from RATANAK from Wani and from teacher Tim. I'd like to thank you all once again for coming to our live show, and we'd love to see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.